The Strongman Grand Slam is a term that has been floating about for the past couple of years, and it refers to the winner of the 4 major titles, or at least the 4 titles that are considered to be the major ones. They are the World's Strongest Man, Arnold Strongman Classic, Strongest Man on Earth, and the Rogue Invitational. I'm not entirely sure who coined the term Strongman Grand Slam, but it seems to have been universally accepted by most of the fans and the athletes of the sport. My question today is whether or not all 4 of these competitions really belong in the discussion of a Strongman Grand Slam, and if it is really even a thing. Mitchell Hooper is the only person to have ever won all 4 of these competitions, and it's not surprising either because the Rogue Invitational has only been around since 2021 and the Strongest Man on Earth since 2020. So the older athletes, the likes of your Bryans, your Thors, your Big Zs, weren't exactly around in the era to be able to win all 4 shows. But Brian Shaw, Hathor Bjornsson, and Big Z have all won the Arnold Strongman Classic and the World's Strongest Man. So what I'm going to do is discuss each competition on its own, and then I'm going to give my thoughts on whether or not it should be considered a major title. And we're going to start with the oldest of them all, that being the World's Strongest Man. The World's Strongest Man started back in 1977 and was won by Bruce Wilhelm, and it originally started as a TV production more than an actual sport. The thing with World's Strongest Man is that it pays the least out of all 4 shows as far as I know, and it is still primarily a TV show over a strongman competition. I genuinely believe that if this was proposed as a competition today with the prize pool and the group stages and the way that it runs for so long and you've got all of the television productions, I don't think that it would come to fruition, because why would the biggest athletes want to compete at this show where they're going to earn less money, spend more time away from their families, have more TV obligations when they could compete in the likes of the Arnolds, the Strongest Man on Earth, or the Rogue Invitational and earn more money? But that's the thing, it isn't being proposed today, it's been about since 1977, and it is the most prestigious accolade to have. Whether or not the athletes want to admit it, this is the title that they all want to win. They might say it's not the title that they're going for, but World's Strongest Man is most people's reason for getting into the sport of strongman. The first strongman show that you hear about is the World's Strongest Man. A good analogy that people tend to use is that if you went up to a stranger in the street with no connection to strongman at all and asked them what the World's Strongest Man is, they'd probably be able to tell you that it's the people that lift the big concrete balls. But if you said, what's the Rogue Invitational, they'd probably have no idea. See, the World's Strongest Man is to strongman what the Hoover is to vacuum cleaners. Feel free to leave your analogies in the comments down below. So with that being said, I do believe that the World's Strongest Man deserves to be considered a major title, as the name itself holds enough weight and it comes with the most amount of media attention, and it really is the one title that every single athlete wants to win. Then we have the second oldest of the 2, which is the Arnold Strongman Classic, which came about in 2002. It joined the Arnold Sports Festival, which was originally a bodybuilding show because of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it was won by Mark Henry in the first year, former professional wrestler. Well, he was a professional wrestler at the time and a former Olympic athlete. When the Arnolds first came about, it was basically the opposite of what World's Strongest Man was. At this sort of time era, World's Strongest Man was moving more into dynamic moving events, and the Arnolds was testing people maximally. We did have the IFSA split, I think it was around 2007, I want to say, the IFSA split, or was it a little bit, might have been a bit earlier than that actually, but either way, we're not going to get into the weeds of all that. We had the Arnolds, which tested people for their maximal strength, and we had World's Strongest Man, which tested people for more movement and dynamic strength. Now, you might think that the Arnolds is pretty pointless in this day and age with the likes of Strongest Man on Earth coming about and that having more athletes, more events, and being heavier, but the Arnolds definitely still holds weight amongst the biggest titles. If it was as simple as, well, this person won that show, so he's going to win that show, what's the point in sport at all? What's the point in different football teams playing against each other? Because they can just say, well, we beat them and they beat you, so we've technically already beat you. It's just not how it works. The Arnolds has different events, it's a different style of competition, and it also invites different athletes to the show. So I think despite it losing the title of being the heaviest and hardest show on the Strongman calendar year, I still think it holds its place, and I still consider it to be one of the major titles. Moving on then to the show that has basically taken its crown for being the heaviest show, and that is The Strongest Man on Earth. And although this is a relatively new show, it only started back in 2020 as the Shaw Classic in Brian Shaw's own gym, I think it can already be considered as a major title. It's got the most amount of athletes and the most amount of events. They do have a kind of loose qualification system and still some invitational system surrounding it, but it does tend to bring the best athletes into the competition to compete against each other to find the strongest man on earth. And I do believe that whoever wins this show should be considered the strongest man on earth. It is 8 brutally heavy events against 15 other top athletes. So if you come out on top, you're the winner, you're the best. Now, it may not have the history, the heritage, or the prestige of the World's Strongest Man or the Arnold Strongman Classic, but the difference with the Strongest Man on Earth is it's predominantly a strongman show, whereas the other two were a TV show and then a bodybuilding contest, and the Rogue Invitational a CrossFit contest. So the Strongest Man on Earth is the only one out of the 4 that has been started as a strongman show and continues to be a strongman show. Of course, it has the other things going on around it. They're showcasing other sports. They've got the expo, but they are all around the strongman, whereas the strongman is around other things in the other shows. Does that make sense? So yes, I think the Strongest Man on Earth should be considered a major title and it should be part of the Strongman Grand Slam. Moving on to the last one, which is the Rogue Invitational, which I personally, I'll get it straight out there, I don't think it should be considered a major title just yet. I actually believe that it's only considered a major title because of the prize pot. It tends to have 5 or 6 events, and when it first came about for the first 2 years, it felt like a Arnold's with a little bit of a twist on it. I really enjoyed the first 2 years. I thought it was great. I thought it's building into something that could be considered a major title. But then the past 2 years, the event selection just hasn't been perfect. The testing of certain equipment, such as the bull pull and even the sandbag runs, stuff like that, just doesn't seem to have been there. So they've had a few mistakes or a few events which just, there's not enough separation between the athletes, and if they ran it back 100 times, you could have so many different winners. Is what I'm trying to say. Like, it doesn't necessarily cater towards the best strongman. It just caters towards whoever gets the event spot on at that time. But if you ran it back, you could have a completely different winner. I do think the Rogue does a lot of things that the other shows don't do. They are attempting to bring in not new events as such, but they're attempting to try new things. They had the yoke into the log press, which some people don't like, but I feel like that's just the purists of the sport. And I am a purist of the sport, but if something new and enjoyable comes along, I'm not going to hate on it just because it's new and enjoyable. At some point, the log press was new. So you have to give everything its place, and if it looks good, it looks good. I just think the Rogue Invitational needs a few more years to really find its feet, and it needs to focus a bit more time on the strongman competition and the strongwoman competition, as opposed to just the CrossFit side of things. It typically only has 10 athletes, and it is an invitational, as it is in the name, of course, Rogue Invitational. They do try to invite the best athletes, but if we look at the Giants Live that's coming up, the Strongman Open and World Deadlift Championships, they've got 12 athletes taking part. They might actually have more now. I know Tom pulled out, but I think they put 2 more in. So they could have 13 athletes taking part over 6 events. They've got a maximal event, they've got rep events, they've got a grip event, they've got speed events. Why is Giants Live Strongman Open not being considered as a major title, but the Rogue Invitational is, when arguably the Strongman Open has the more variety and better caliber of athletes than the Rogue Invitational, or at least a very similar caliber of athletes. The only reason it's considered a major title is because they hold it over 2 days and the prize pot is bigger. So with that being said, I do believe that the Strongman Grand Slam can be a thing. I just don't think it's all that it's made out to be quite yet. I think 3 of the shows are great. They all still need improvements. We can always improve on things, and nothing's going to be perfect. But if you're running a strongman show for professional athletes trying to find the best in the world, then the testing and the environment and everything needs to be perfect. And I think the other three do a good job of finding the strongest or finding the best athlete there, whereas the Rogue, it doesn't feel like they put enough effort into the athletes as the other shows do. And I'm sure people will say the World's Strongest Man is the worst for that sort of thing, and I can understand where they're coming from with that. But the thing with the World's Strongest Man is that every single person that shows up is showing up to win. Yes, they've got the group stages, but they still have 25 of the best athletes in the world. And despite the less money that they get for it, despite everything surrounding it, everybody is still giving 100% at that show. The majority of people turn up in their best possible shape for the World's Strongest Man. The prestige and the name and the accolade alone is enough to call it a major title. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Is the Strongman Grand Slam a real title? Should all 4 of the major titles be considered a major title? And what things need to change in order for the Strongman Grand Slam to be a real thing? Guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.